All right, welcome, welcome. You should be seeing my screen, and we are going to dive in to the third eye chakra today. All right, so the third eye chakra is also known as the brow chakra, and it's located right in between your eyebrows, right there on your forehead. Okay. So sometimes, some people associate it with a little higher, like in the middle of your forehead, but it's actually a little lower, right between the brow. All right, so we're focusing a lot on the IC, okay? So this has to do with your perception, intuition, wisdom, our sixth sense, right? This is our inner sight, which is responsible for our imagination, being able to see different views. It's about perspective. So when we're able to have insight into a situation and to have clear thought, then this here is where what that's associated with. All right. So this also helps with, of course, being insightful, discernment, right? Being able to see beyond the illusion, being able to see beyond any deception, okay? To be able to see the truth for what your things, for what they truly are, versus what they may be presented as falsely, or sometimes just, having the right mindset, okay? So this is your inner eye, and it also is associated with mental abilities. There's a lot of people that experience maybe some clairvoyance, and this is the chakra that's associated with that. Psychological skills. This resonates with the energy of our psyche. Okay, so it's our mind. There's a lot of mental awareness associated here. All right, so our conscious and our unconscious psychological tendencies. Okay, so this is our rational mind. So again, the third eye is associated with truth, and whatever we believe becomes our reality. Okay, your beliefs run the show. So this works a lot with the unconscious, the subconscious mind. All right. So one of the things that's is known about this one is that when we have the ability to control our own minds, right? We control our mind, then we can ascend any limitations that we may currently have for ourselves. Okay, so a lot of our limitations come from our mindset, come from our perception, right? How we see things. This is all governed here. The conscious minds, it's able to evolve and detach from affliction. So, sometimes we get caught up on the things that maybe have happened, some traumas, right? Memories. This is where the memories are stored, okay? And they pop up, and it's how much time we put into that. Once a memory comes into play, it's, there's a lot of reprogramming that has to happen, and the emotion that's attached to it as well. So it's like being able to see it from a different perspective or see it a different way can help with that kind of thing. All right, and we can rise up and above and begin healing from that. So there's mental clarity, knowledge of just knowing. Okay, there's just a sense of knowing, all right, and being open-minded. Those are some things that this is associated with as well. Okay, let me see here. It's usually associated with purple or a bluish white, depending on where you hear the information from. So I associate it personally with purple, but it can be a bluish purple, all right, bluish white, sorry, going into a purple. Some people will say indigo, so that might be a color that you'll hear associated with the third eye chakra as well. So there's a lot of emotions that are associated with this specifically, because when we think about how it affects our perception of something or our mindset about something, the way we think triggers, of course, a ton of emotion, okay? So it can be very easy with the wrong type of thinking to fall into certain things like depression, anxiety, panic, right? To have panic attacks and things like that, or even anger, okay? So when we focus in and we focus with our eyes, right? When we're looking at something, we draw focus to something. We're doing that with our inner sight as well. So all that happens in our third eye. So where we draw focus pulls energy, more energy, and amplifies that. And of course, as a result, amplifying the emotions that are attached to it. So I'm going to read through some of the when the third eye is in balance, it can feel like you have strong intuition. Okay, you're very insightful. There's an understanding of what's going on, right? You're able to, when you see someone going through something or behaving a certain way, okay, someone's behaving a certain way, you're able to see beyond the behavior and understand why they may be reacting in that way or responding in that way, okay, because of that intuition, or just being able to have that insight, okay, just that understanding, to see beyond the behavior and into a person themselves, to be able to better understand. You're able to sleep well, you have good memory recall, you have a creative imagination, good dream recalls. If when we dream at night, we are seeing images, right? Tapping into the unconscious, the subconscious. And that's our brain processing information that we have, things, experiences that, things we've learned, conversations we've had, and emotion. It processes all of that at night to break it down and kind of like help us to understand a little better. So there's a lot of insight in dreams as well. Our mind and our brain is just amazing that it truly helps us in that. So having a journal, if you are a dreamer and you remember those dreams, write them all down. Those are messages that we can decipher. Sometimes we go to bed thinking of a question, right? Or pondering a situation, and then we sleep on it. That's why we sleep on it, right? We wake up with a refreshed mind and a better understanding of direction as well. So keep those dream journals. They're extremely valuable, right? So the ability to visualize, when you're able to see a situation, an outcome, or to visualize something happening in the future, right? That's engaging the third eye, okay? So excess energy, when there's too much energy there's we get stuck in our head sometimes, or overthink. So we can become overly analytical, overly proud, egomaniac type, overly intellectual, because we're constantly just wanting to learn, think. We're in our heads a lot. And when we're in our heads a lot, we can create overwhelm and some brain fog there too. So, and of course, anxiety. We can have some mental rigidity. So when we're, one-minded, one-tracked kind of thing, it's, not very open-minded, basically. Maybe feeling a little manipulative and religious, dogmatic. Deficient energy, lack of foresight, undisciplined. Our mind is just scattered and going everywhere. We have selective memory, not really wanting to, take the time to recall certain things, because maybe there's an emotion that's attached to that we're really not ready or willing to address, okay? Depression, unclear thought, non-assertive and delusional. Schizophrenia, okay? Can't tell the difference between inner and outer reality. Afraid to claim one's own power, okay? Saying what's on your mind would be an example of that, right? what you're thinking, holding back, those kinds of things, standing up. So those are just a few things to consider. The physical associations with this are interesting because you would think that it would be something that would be more targeted into that area. But what's fascinating about this chakra is that it governs pretty much the entire system. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention before going into the physical part of this is that the adaptive system, it's something that has been launched here in the last year. We have tons of studies on this, and it helps with emotional well-being, okay, emotional wellness. There's clinical studies, clinical findings. It's absolutely amazing. I've actually started using this myself. Adaptive, pretty self-explanatory there. It helps with to be able to adapt maybe to new situations, a changing environment. We're living in changing times. A lot of stress and anxiety can result in that. So this helps with calming those emotions, but also works in the central nervous system, okay? Helps support the brain. So there's a lot going on there. It helps with GABA receptor sites and so on. There's a class on this one where we'll get into more detail, but that's fast approaching, as a matter of fact, and that will be done this month. So keep your eyes and ears open for this one. This one is absolutely going to be worth your time. So the chakra systems for the third eye are associated with the pituitary gland, the endocrine system, the neurological system, the left brain hemisphere, the left eye, the nose, ears, sinuses, your conscious mind, and small muscle control. I'm going to break this down just a little bit, just so that everybody has an understanding. So we'll go through and explain, what the pituitary gland is and what it does. This is extremely important. So I am going to explain a little bit about that, show you which organs are controlled by the endocrine system as well, which processes, remember, they are systems. So there's a connection that runs through the entire body. So we'll touch base on that here in just a second. So some of the dis-ease for the third eye chakra would be addictions. Sometimes that can mean either smoking addiction, alcohol. It could even be caffeine. Maybe you're addicted to coffee because you're needing the caffeine to kind of give you the energy to perk you up, right? To help focus, things like that. So depression, addictions can be emotional as well. So it pretty much covers everything. Depression, panic attacks, headaches, migraines, brain cysts, tumors, strokes, dizziness, blindness, earaches, deafness, seizures, learning disabilities, spinal issues, insomnia, sinus problems, and hormonal imbalance. This covers a lot of stuff, and you're going to see how when we talk about hormonal imbalance and the endocrine system as well as the pituitary gland, you see that it's dispersed throughout the body, okay? So the major endocrine glands are part of a system, and those glands would be your pituitary, pineal, your thyroid, your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, right? So you see that when your adrenal glands are affected, your kidneys, you may have some kidney issues as well, okay? Your pancreas, this is where when there's an issue with the pancreas, we have issues with diabetes. So we have blood sugar issues, okay? Your ovaries and your testes. So these are your reproductive organs. So if there's any type of infertility issues, maybe low libido or erectile dysfunction, those all fall into play with the endocrine system. Okay, A lot of times when people hear endocrine system, they only associate the thyroid gland, but it's a system of glands. And the word endocrine, this is a system, it's a network of glands that release hormones that pretty much, which is chemical messages that is released into the bloodstream. The blood carries it to the organs to be delivered, to tell it what to do, how to behave, how to work, right? It gives it signals, it's their messages. So it's important that this network has a clear pathway and everyone gets to communicate well, which is why we have to be very cautious and intentional with, you know, keeping the body as clean as possible. Okay, detoxing is really important for these systems because this is an internal signaling. Okay, so their glands are excreting hormones within itself to make all these the body run and work efficiently the way it's supposed to. So the central nervous system is pretty amazing. We've got our, okay, so the one in control here, this is the command center. We've got the brain, right? This is the motherboard computer. And it, of course, sends messages and information that's carried through the nervous system, okay, to your sensory organs and so on and so forth. So again, it's a messaging system. So what happens here in the brain gets sent down to alert the body. So this is where we have to be cautious of what we're thinking, right? Because we're programming without realizing that we're actually programming the body to respond in certain ways. That's why when we think about, you know, let's see, it could be pretty much anything, any negative self-talk, or when you're not feeling well, you're anxious, you're angry, okay, you're nervous, those kinds of things. It sends a signal and it releases chemicals to the body into certain areas and your body starts to react. Same thing goes, even that's always into play, even when like you, let's say you bump your elbow and you're like, it's a targeted area, okay? It didn't come from the brain, but you bumped your elbow and then the brain sends a signal to that elbow saying, hey, you just got hurt, react with pain so that we can send over, you know, the stuff for inflammation to help. It's a pretty interesting way. And I'm breaking this down, and the reason I'm breaking this down is because when we don't understand the basics of how the body works, it can be a little difficult with being able to address it, right? So it's a good idea to have at least just a little bit of an understanding as to how it's all connected and how it works. But even if you don't get all of this information, as long as you understand the most important things is the positive mindset and the healthy foods, right? Removing toxins and detoxing. The body will take care of itself, okay? You don't even have to know any of this except for how to eat right and how to make the right behavioral lifestyle modifications. The body knows exactly what to do. It'll take it from there. But this is for those of you who are really interested in the science and want the information. By all means, please take a screenshot of this so that you can go back to it and reference it. It's a really good tool to have, especially if you're having nerve issues. But I mean, it involves the brain. So this pretty much covers everything. But your sensory receptors, you name it, motor skills, all those types of things. Our small muscles, if somebody has experienced a stroke, then you know the signaling, you know, there's a little bit of damage in the brain somewhere that interrupts the messaging and signals to maybe the hand, right? And so the hand isn't responding the way it should. You know, can't grasp a cup as well. Okay, so there's a lot of work to be done to help with supporting the brain and the nervous system there. All right, so you're always going to see this one in our chakra series because it doesn't matter what chakra we're working on. This is foundation. This is foundational, right? Eating the right foods will absolutely help the body heal, okay? This is what our body needs to be able to function. Our food is converted into chemical energy, which fuels our body. So there's absolutely a connection between the gut and the brain. All right. The gut brain connection is pretty fascinating. So there's neurotransmitters that, you know, help with, like, for instance, serotonin and dopamine. Okay, the neuromuscular, the fight or flight response, right? So that's our cortisol. Our cortisol level goes up when we stress, and that right there is can affect our kidneys as well. That's where you have your adrenal glands. That's where this is happening. Okay, so it's good to maintain homeostasis, which means maintaining balance between fight and flight. We shouldn't always be in a fight mode or in a flight mode. This is fear, this is anger, right? So bringing balance to our emotions helps to balance this out as well. Cortisol is a chemical we definitely don't want to have constantly elevated because it creates a lot of anxiety, okay? A lot of other issues, but you'll feel it in the form of anxiety, exhaustion, fatigue, all those things. All right, so when the gut is compromised, this how should I put this one? So I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but there was a study that was done, and they had learned that when we have parasites in the body, in the gut, they send off signals to the brain so that we begin to crave what the parasites need to survive. So we start eating junk food, sugar, we start having these cravings. Then they're hard to fight, because what we're really fighting is these things that are living in our gut that need to be expelled. So detoxing is major, because not only does detoxing help with the gut, it also helps improve our moods and our emotions as well, and help to balance the brain and our hormones. As a result, our hormones, our frontal lobe in our forehead, right, that stores memory. It also helps with regulating a lot of our endocrine system too, our hormones. So the E omega in the LLV is amazing food for the cardiovascular system, as well as the foods that our brain needs, our nervous system needs, as well, our endocrine system. Okay, these are vital fatty acids. Okay, alpha CRS, again, this is a gentle detox. It removes what doesn't belong. It helps to boost and build the immune system. Okay, and we're replenishing with our vitamins and minerals there. This has whole foods in it too. There's something interesting. There's selenium that's in here, which is helpful with helping the thyroid. Okay, so it supports thyroid healing, and that has that in there as well. So it's actually part of the protocol that I used to help balance my thyroid out. So different foods, it's the same as the throat chakra when we went over the throat chakra, okay? Because the throat chakra houses the thyroid, which is part of that endocrine system. You're going to see pretty much the same foods there. So your blackberries, your blueberries, your grapes, some of these look like glands, which of course helps. The glands are your hormone controllers, they're the command centers. So you're helping to support those glands. So your plums, eggplants, purple grapes, prunes, blackberries, elderberries, black currants, figs, purple potatoes, purple asparagus, purple peppers, purple cabbage. Okay, we're going to get into the essential oils here in a second. If you're into using crystal healing and absolutely love crystals, your go-tos for this one would be your purple amethyst. So your amethyst, your azurite, lapis lazuli. Okay, we talked about that one for the throat chakra. It's in Egyptian times, Cleopatra actually used this stone. It's a blue, lapis is a blue stone, and she used to grind it down into a powder, and she would make eyeliner with it, because it was thought back then, or said back then, that this helped with sight, clearing sight. So that's pretty fun fact for you. But lapis lazuli, quartz, and sodalite. So a couple of tips, okay, for healthy eating. Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, which are great sources of fiber. Okay, fiber cleans out the system, vitamins and minerals. Okay, we also get this in LLV as well. Make sure you're supplementing and eating well. Choose good sources of fats, such as those that contain omega-3 fatty acids and monosaturated fats. So avocados are a good source of fat. There's a few others. You can Google good fats, good sources of fats, and also endocrine supporting foods, and you'll see a list there as well. Opting for whole grain over refined grains, reducing sodium intake, avoiding refined sugars. All right, make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Okay, you want to make sure that we're moving things out of the system that don't belong there, but also we're helping to support the endocrine system and our hormone, if these hormones are being secreted into our bloodstream, then we need to make sure that we're supporting that process, because that's what our blood is rich. It's water, okay? Water with our cells, okay, and our nutrients. So we need to be able to provide the system what it needs to carry these hormones through. So increase that water intake. I cannot stress that one enough. That alone makes a huge difference. Okay, so clary sage is the oil of clarity and vision. Okay, it's been used in ancient times for eyesight. So poor vision, just applying it around the eyes helps support your vision physically, literally. So in the emotional aromatherapy kit, the oil for this one would actually be console. Okay, that's for both the the third eye as well as the crown chakra. There is another one though we're going to add on for the crown chakra, but console is the oil for that one. So there's frankincense, patchouli, ylang ylang, sandalwood, and rose in this blend. So it's a comforting, it's renewing, which is great because when we're in our heads a lot, we need to be able to calm those thoughts down, right? And of course the emotions that come along with them. So providing that comfort, right, to be able to, it's like when we're going through something and then someone else comes and says all the right things, giving you that support and the encouragement. This is really important for us. So pretty much the console is helping with that as well. We can do that for ourselves too. Okay. So black pepper, I want to kind of since we talked about addiction, okay, so black pepper is actually really good for that. My husband quit smoking with black pepper. It just reduced cravings. It's amazing for the brain. So black pepper is there for that type of support. There is the Melissa and the bergamot. When we talk about our depression, those are go-tos, absolute go-tos. Melissa is known as the oil of light. Okay, so when we're going through a time of darkness in our lives, there's certain periods we all go through stuff, then we need to uplift and have a little bit of that light shine on us, right? To bathe in that warm light. So that, Melissa, is there for that purpose. It's also known as lemon balm. Bergamot is a fruit, okay, and that one is also extremely helpful for that as well. Very uplifting. All of your citrus oils are going to be very uplifting, and that's the #1 choice for this. Adaptive, we just went over that, helps with the emotional support, mental clarity, well-being, okay, and that helps there as well. Balance, so if when we're struggling with anxious feelings, balance is right up there along with that. It also helps to support the endocrine system. So there's blue tansy in there, and blue tansy has been known to help with supporting the thyroid. So when we have a sluggish thyroid and it's not excreting that hormone that needs to be excreted, then that's where that comes into play as well. Okay. Serenity, lavender, all things calming, helps with the insomnia, helps with, you know, being able to get that sleep. If, however, you've experienced or you have PTSD, then I would not use the lavender or the serenity, because they will amplify communication. Okay, so we don't want to amplify the nightmare that you may be having as a result of PTSD. So you would actually want to use juniper berry in its place, especially if you're having night terrors. So juniper berry is your go-to oil. You could also use for night terrors. You can use wild orange as well in place of that, the lavender. Petitgrain is another great oil too. So peppermint, you know, that opens up the sinuses. Everyone has experienced the power of peppermint and how it opens you up. It also stimulates the frontal lobe, your brain. It helps with focus. So sinuses, brain support, it's really great. Opens the mind up. It just makes you feel like all around cool sensation and like lighter, a little bit lighter afterwards. But it's also great if you're experiencing headaches or migraines. So we know that peppermint has anti-inflammatory properties as well. So breathing it in through the nose does all of that, as well as helping to support with the inflammatory process. Okay, and then we have the Immortelle that has, oh my goodness, I can spend a lot of time on just Immortelle, but that's actually amazing for your third eye and your crown chakra. That's the crown chakra oil, okay? So you can put it on the top of your head to help support, and you can put it right there over your brow chakra. But when there's a lot of inflammation in the body, it can result in maybe like a cyst or a tumor as an effect. So we want to reduce inflammation as much as possible. And to reduce inflammation, we always do work on removing toxins, because that's what triggers inflammation. A lot of the time, most of the time, is chronic inflammation can create some bubbling in different areas. So peppermint is good. DDR prime, that is your damaged DNA repair. Okay, that's what DDR stands for, damaged DNA repair. So that right there, anyone who has struggled with any DNA, that what that does is it facilitates, it helps with something called apoptosis. In other words, when we have cells, right, or DNA that are they've become inflamed and they've started to change its properties, then DDR comes in and says, okay, we're going to either help repair you or we're going to help move you out of the body. So we call that apoptosis. That's cell death. Okay, so we remove it so that it's not, you know, going through the body and duplicating itself and spreading. We don't want that. So we help that body on a cellular level with DDR prime. So it's a great detox for the cellular system. It's amazing. I use that for my thyroid for sure. So anybody who's had stroke, any kind of issues with the pituitary, any system, this is a definite must. Basil is amazing support as well for the same, you know, if you have like a nodule or anything that you're concerned about, then basil helps to support the body in working through that process as well. Okay. Let's see. The fennel. Gosh, we just learned a ton about fennel just the other day, didn't we? And what an amazing oil that is. It helps with reducing, it's great for the digestive system, and remember the gut-brain connection, right? So your digestive system, it helps with bloating effects and things like that, but it also helps the sinuses. So for having any sinus issues, like, you know, lots of sinus pressure, congestion, things like that, that helps to support it. It's also good for the ears. Okay, so lots of uses for this. It's even good for the reproductive system. So it's a great master oil. Clary sage is great for hormonal support, as well as the eyes. Okay, so for having issues there, lemongrass and clary sage have been used quite a bit with, I mean, I think I had somebody that said that they used the lemongrass and the clary sage together on their temples and around their eyes, and they actually were able to correct their vision slightly. So, hey, that's definitely worth a shot. I haven't tried that yet, but I think I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. Earaches. So heliocrysum is great if you have tinnitus, okay? So you can apply that to the back of the ear. Never apply your oils inside the ear or in the nose or anything like that. But you can apply it right around the ear, because remember, it'll be absorbed into the skin and go right into the bloodstream, and it'll affect that area specifically. So that's good for that. Basil and fennel are amazing for supporting your ears too. Those two together. So if you have ringing in the ears, then that would be your heliocrysum. Heliocrysum is known as liquid stitches. So it's great to even have in like your first aid kit. Anything that's bleeding, then heliocrysum helps to stop that bleeding. So when you think of bleeding in the body, then you can pull out that heliocrysum. So if you have like your PMS, right, is a heavy flow, then heliocrysum over the uterus will help with that as well. So think when you hear heliocrysum, think ringing in the ears or bleeding, that's going to be your go-to. All right, so seizures, we have, you know, seizures, learning disabilities, you know, you got your frankincense on board, helping to support, breaks the blood-brain barrier, helping to support the brain in an amazing way. You have your DDR prime that's also working at the cellular level as well. So all things calming, you know, just keep in mind with seizures, you want to use your calming stuff, your grounding oils and your calming oils. Okay. I would not use rosemary if you have seizures. So that's the one that I would suggest to stay away from. And clary sage, by the way, an important tip on clary sage is that it helps with oxytocin. So it's an oil that is used for, it's a hormone that, oxytocin is a hormone that stimulates the release of breast milk. And it's also, it also stimulates contractions of the uterus during labor. So it's an oil that's used a lot in you know, during labor and delivery. But do not use this oil if you are pregnant, okay, because of the fact that it does stimulate uterine contractions. That's an oil you don't want to use until you're ready to, okay? So we don't want to have that on board. But basil, clary sage, and fennel are great for stimulating. So if you have a breastfeeding mama that might need support, maybe she's drying up a little bit and just, you know, it's very discouraging when that happens, but there is support on board. So 1 drop of basil, fennel, and clary sage together in a 5 ml roller bottle, topped off with coconut oil. Just apply it over the breast 15 minutes before feeding. It's safe for the baby, and it helps with letdown. So that's really, really good. Breastfeeding mamas need to stay away from peppermint until they're ready to stop breastfeeding, because that can dry up breast milk. All right, so there's so much this is all hormone related. Okay, so you'll see how it's just, there's so many uses. It's so fascinating. Let's see here. What else? Cedarwood. Cedarwood, it helps with oxygenating. So it brings unity, it unifies, it's a unifying oil. So, you know, increasing oxygen, this is great for the brain, the back of the head. The occipital bone is like right at the base of your skull. Okay. So applying cedarwood, that helps with increasing, supporting your oxygen levels to the brain. And it's a very grounding oil because it is a wood oil. Okay. Your in tune, that's your focus blend. You know, when we have a scattered mind, maybe we're struggling because we're overwhelmed, we've got a lot going on, we're trying to bring things into focus, right? So that we can focus in on what we're doing. That's all third eye, okay, brow chakra. When we're trying to focus into something, that's what we're activating. And so we're going to apply that in tune there. You could also apply it to the thumbs or to the your big toes, okay, because that's your brain reflex points, but right over the third eye, and this, breathe that in. When you breathe in your oils, you're triggering the third eye. You're triggering the limbic system part of the brain. You're triggering all of these things so that it helps with releasing the proper chemicals, you're, you know, helping the body to communicate with itself and to do what it's meant to do naturally. You're kind of just giving it some information is what you're doing. So when you're breathing in your oils, it helps with calming the emotions, but it also helps with supporting the hormones, even just breathing them in. It's doesn't always have to be applied topically to specific areas. Aromatherapy for the third eye is absolutely helpful. Lemon is the oil of focus. It's also cleansing, it's uplifting. So to the emotions, it cleans out the lymphatic system and helps with digestive system. So this right here, of course, is going to be endocrine support as well. Lemon is a very versatile oil, definitely amazing to have on board. Rosemary, there's a lot of studies on rosemary and how people with maybe a learning disability or maybe memory issues, maybe, you know, we're trying to study, maybe you can go back and watch this with your rosemary, because there's a lot of information that I give, and I try not to give too much to overwhelm people, but I've been told, hey, no, I like this, go ahead and, you know, give me the information. You could always go back and re-listen or go back to a specific section. But rosemary has been used in studies for kids in school. So when you study and you're breathing in rosemary, and then when you go to take the test and you breathe in rosemary again, it helps with memory recall. So it's great for retaining information. Rosemary is also amazing in your hair, by the way. I have it in my shower and love it on my scalp. So this is great brain support. It's a very cooling sensation as well, and it smells great. And it's actually can be helpful for hair growth. That's just a side note. It has nothing to do with this, but thought I'd share. So vetiver is a grounding oil. It also, along with rosemary, is very similar to that, helps with focus, grounding. Okay, so it grounds the mind, the emotions, and helps to center yourself so that you can focus. All right, so it's amazing for that. Sandalwood, again, you know, these things over the forehead helps with clearing the mind, bringing you to a state of being able to even meditate and to pray. Sandalwood is highly used for meditation purposes because of that, along with frankincense. Those oils help with just clearing the mind. So if you're having trouble sleeping even, then those might be some of your go-tos. You can play around with, you know, whether or not you want to use serenity and lavender, or, you know, you're absolutely in love with sandalwood and how that smells and how it, you know, makes you relaxed and feel. My go-to in the very beginning was frankincense, right? So, because that for me clears my mind. So, I mean, they all work. They're all very, it's a matter of what your favorites are and which ones you choose to continue using. So play around with them and see which ones you like best for that specific type of support. All right, so lemongrass is a very powerful cleansing oil. And this is actually, and I've said this before in the other classes, can be used over any of your chakras for any of your systems because of the fact that it's so cleansing. This is actually good for, like, you know, even people that are wanting to focus on lowering cholesterol, okay? So again, cleansing, just remember lemongrass cleanses, and have that on board to clear any blockages, and amazing for either, it's also for its anti-inflammatory properties. So muscle support, you know, that's great. You could even use your lavender, all things calming on the muscles to help to relax the tight muscle, you know, those kinds of things. So you can utilize the same concept for your muscles as well. So that covers a lot of those. I have more on this list here. I'll share in just a second. Let me backtrack just 1 second on something here. I wanted to say the pituitary gland. Let me see what my next slide is. Okay, yeah. So the pituitary gland is the master gland. And I wanted to give this just a second to explain a little bit about what this one was. But the master gland, it's a major endocrine gland, and it's attached to the base of the brain. It controls growth and development and the functioning of other endocrine glands. Okay, so it's kind of like, you know, in charge, and it's, you know, located behind the nose. Okay. So when we have sinus issues or chronic inflammation in the sinus cavity, then you can see how you may have maybe an effect with the pituitary gland as well, right? Because it's right behind the nose, the nasal passage is there. So this secretes hormones into the bloodstream. It can affect the thyroid. It can affect the reproductive organs and the adrenal glands, all right? It's actually it releases a thyroid stimulating hormone. So when we're dealing with anything with the thyroid, then this is actually one of the things they test. They test to see the TSH levels, the thyroid stimulating hormone level, okay? And that's actually associated with the pituitary gland. It also releases endorphins, which is our pain relieving properties, our pleasure center of the brain. Okay, I already stated this is where, like, the oxytocin is actually also being stimulated, and we can see pituitary tumors, which can interfere with the release of hormones, which can lead to also having vision problems and headaches. Okay, so that's a little bit about the pituitary gland. And the small muscles that I mentioned before, you know, those would be like, you know, your fine motor skills, being able to, like, bend your fingers, your hands, pick up a cup, you know, your small muscles, the things that we use without really thinking about. There's, like, the automatic, you know, kind of things, which can be affected by a pinched nerve or a stroke, things like that. So if there's tension, a muscle that might be tight in the neck, then it can be affecting a nerve that's running down to the hand, kind of thing. Even so, all of those are connected. Your larger muscles can affect the smaller ones. So good massages are great as well, just for releasing tension, and also helping with pain relief in the nervous system too. So the supplements that I really want to highlight for the third eye would be the E-omega, which is the omega-3 fatty acids that we talked about. There is a vegan formula in the LLV. So you'll see each one of these is carefully formulated to provide optimal support for the entire system. No matter what system we're talking about, you will always hear about LLV. It's a game changer. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's pretty powerful, amazing stuff. If you have not tried it, please try it. If you're wanting to sample it, then reach out. I'll send you a sample. But this is definitely something, and I mean, honestly, like with a 30-day money back guarantee, that's pretty much what that is. You're sampling it for 30 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. DDR Prime, the Trim Shake. The reason I have the Trim Shake on here is because this actually helps with supporting our cortisol levels. Okay, so due to the ingredients that's in the Trim Shake, if we're somebody that's struggling with stress and anxiety, we know, first of all, that triggers a lot of the stress eating, right? But so, of course, this helps with curbing the appetite, helping us to feel fuller longer so that we're not doing all the stress eating, but it also helps with calming cortisol, okay, the cortisol levels. So it just helps with supporting in so many different ways in that regard. And they're pretty delicious. I think there's vanilla and chocolate. I get the chocolate, and there's a strawberry. Okay, so here's a blend in our series of oil blends that we've made. So we do 3 drops of helichrysum, 2 drops of vetiver, 1 drop of lavender. All right. So that you would just apply it directly over in between your eyebrows. You don't need much. And of course, I had talked about this in the throat chakra. If you're dealing with the endocrine system, period, okay, even though this says thyroid support kit, I used these things because I wanted to detox my body. And so that's what I was focused on. And it just so happens that it would be the same thing you would use for thyroid. It would be the same thing you would use for the pituitary gland. It would be the same thing for your gut. It would be the same thing. So, so if it's for your thyroid, great. If not, remove the thyroid word out of there, and there's your support kit. Okay. So this is going to be something that you do regularly on board. Of course, your balance oil would be as needed, but the PB Assist and the LLV and the DDR Prime are daily. Okay. If you're not using the DDR Prime, maybe you're not struggling with a lot of these things that I spoke about and you're not really concerned about that, then at least use these 3. Or you can get the Microplex and the E Omega by itself, together, those 2 together without the Alpha CRS, and you can take the DDR Prime. It's up to you, but this is what I do. I do all of them. And you've got your Zendocrine, which helps. It's a detoxification blend. Take the Z away. You've got endocrine, the word endocrine there. So you see what you're supporting. When you detox the body for one specific reason, you're actually detoxing it for others, and you'll see how the system starts to play together nicely. They start communicating well. They're not fighting anymore. They're not hitting each other. There's no more bruising, no more inflammation, right? Like it's great when your body behaves itself. So, and then the Immortelle. Okay, so this also helps to support everything that we just spoke about as far as your third eye, and then going into the crown chakra. So you would actually use this on the top of your head as well. And you don't need much. It's a roller, so it's super easy to use. So focus on reducing your stress. Absolutely. So chronic stress can lead to an increase in cortisol release. Too much can sometimes lead to insomnia, weight gain, anxiety, and depression. Try setting aside some time to get at least 30 minutes per day or of exercise, or work on a relaxing hobby. You can use YouTube, and depending on what level you're at, you can do like yoga for beginners, or you can do Zumba. There's what else can you do? I mean, there's chair yoga, even stretching. Stretching alone works wonders. So whatever you're into, go for your walk. But movement is important in helping things move. Some of our systems, like your lymphatic system, have to have movement and pressure because it doesn't have its own motor. So when we're sitting still constantly, then nothing's being pushed out, like your bacteria and the toxins that need to be released through that specific system. So clearing the filters. And then of course, focus on your color therapy as well, right? Use the oil, use the colors. Like if this is a chakra that you're like, yep, this is me. I need to really work on this. So indigo, the color indigo, purple, right? Those would be your go-to colors for this specific chakra. Even blue, like, you know, the chakra below and above kind of meshes together and like creates that color. So blue, purple, okay, and that's where you're going with that. So artwork, your clothing, painting, jewelry, whatever draws your eye, and helps with overall emotion and attitude and wellness. But I think that, you know, the most important things also, well, there's a lot of important things, right? Like our food, okay, our self-talk, okay? If we have negative thoughts that come into our mind, then use the 5-second rule, okay? After 5 seconds, it's not allowed to be there, right? So we're gonna reverse that self-talk and taking things like maybe reprogramming. You could even do this exercise and write down all the things that we say, all the things you say, okay, and put it into 2 columns. You're going to do a negative and a plus sign at the top, and all the things that we say that are negative self-talk, like I'm not enough, or I can't, or I'm not good at that, or I try but it never, like whatever you're saying. And then what would be the opposite of that? What would be like, I can, right? I am successful. I am a great person. Like whatever it is that you have on this column, what is the opposite of that? What is the positive mindset? What is the right self-talk that you need to have? And then start saying that out loud to yourself every day, because you change the way your mindset, you change the way you see yourself, you start to change the world around you. You create your own world, right? You create your life. We are creators of the things that we want in life, and a lot of times, sometimes it can look a little ugly, okay? So because we're looking through the wrong set of eyes, we've got to tune in the glasses, give them a clean a wipe, or get rid of those and get a new pair and put those on so that we can see a lot clearer, especially how we see ourselves, okay? So I hope you all enjoyed this information. I can get deeper into any one of those categories. This was meant to be more of an overview of the systems. If you're struggling with anything in particular with a specific system, then reach out, we can talk about it. But at the very, basic level, detoxing, clearing the LLV, and using the supporting oils and the right mindset, right? So you've got to be ready and open to facilitate healing. And because you're here and you've watched this, that means you are. So congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of all your efforts. Be proud of yourself. And because this is a journey and we're not going to get it perfect, because we're all a work in progress. So show yourself some grace, show others the same grace. And yeah, we're all in this together. We're doing it together. All right. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to stop the video recording and the screen share.